everyone. What is going on this morning? Happy New Year. We have AJ from Sparky's Craft Coffee Roasting with us today. Real treat. Get to roast a roaster. No,
Yeah. Oh
we'll
boy.
get to question a roaster.
Sure. And I have answers. I don't know if they're the correct answers, but I have answers.
So, first we got Amber is in here. Doesn't show up on my chat in the box here, but Amber and Kevin are both
That's
here.
what that is.
And we also have the Bearded Respect. Thanks for stopping in, Scott. And Jordan J. Thanks for stopping in. Jordan, I'm out of North Carolina now. Back in Wyoming. Jordan's from North Carolina. And then we got Frickin' Frack. Good morning, Bob and Terry. Thanks for stopping in. Let me bring up my questions. So in the chat, I do have the link posted to Sparky's Craft Coffee Roasting. We've talked about this company before on the show. Everyone in the chat, let me know what you're drinking. And if you have questions for the roaster, go ahead and ask them in the chat. I will star them and we will get to them at the end of the show.
Yeah.
But go ahead and tell us a little bit about your company, like when it started, how it started.
So we started this the idea started 5 years ago. I listened to a ton of podcasts. And the podcast I was listening to, they were getting further into coffee and they were getting into specialty coffee. And they were talking about coffees with fruit notes or chocolate notes or just flavors in general compared to the normal of like just burnt bitter coffee. And it really intrigued me. So eventually I started buying some coffee, and then I saw the roasting side of it and how much roasting. What do you need me to talk louder? Oh,
No. I'm
no.
giving a
Your
thumbs
thumbs
up
up.
to Amber
Yeah,
because she's
yeah.
drinking Starbucks peppermint mocha, which is one of my guilty pleasures.
So we have a really good peppermint mocha. We make the peppermint ourselves
Oh,
out of
nice.
candy canes.
Oh, nice.
So I got really intrigued by roasting and how roasting coffee is a lot like cooking a steak, and there are many ways to do it, but you can really like massage it and learn about it and do it well. So I told my wife I was going to buy us a 500-gram sample roaster. I wanted to buy a commercial roaster, that way I learned properly. At first I was like, oh, I could get one of these bread. People would take bread bowls, bread like baking ovens, and turn them into coffee roasters. But I wanted to learn right.
Mm-hmm.
Can you turn the music down just a little bit?
Sure, I can. Yep.
So I wanted to learn properly because I thought that it was something that I would really like to do. So we bought the roaster, and meanwhile, I just continued to soak up knowledge off the internet and YouTube. I bought a Mill City roaster, and they had a YouTube channel, and they posted videos of them roasting coffee on the coffee roaster I was buying, which helped me like reassure, like, yeah, I'm buying a coffee roaster that the company is like there putting out content to help you. And it was right during all the COVID stuff, and when the roaster showed up, the COVID stuff had already hit. I bought it before it started, so we started in our like an outbuilding, and I didn't know nothing about roasting other than what I'd seen. And I did a ton of Reddit like research and just started buying coffees like I would buy from Sweet Marie's. And then I found a couple other green coffee traders that I ordered from. I knew of Cafe Imports, which is where we get our coffee beans from now, but I was too intimidated to try to buy coffee from them. So I just went to other aspects because I was like, I'm just a little old like home roaster at the time. And then because the world had shut down, the Mill City did some online training. They did what they call the roasting 101. Normally that was done at their facility, but they did it online. And the rules were you had to have a roaster so you could do hands on with your roaster. And so that's how I did my roasting 101 and roasting 102. And those are just classes where they talk to us about greens and buying coffee greens and like what happens during the roast profile. Roasts are broke up into three phases, and they just taught us like all the verbiage, kind of a death by PowerPoint, other than they sent us coffee to drink and taste together as a class, and then we all roasted together on our roaster each day. So we did that throughout like early months of May and June, and they had just came out with a 3 kilogram roaster, and that's what they used in the class. And I was like, well, I have to have that because if I could roast 3 kilograms versus a pound at a time, I mean, look at how much more efficient we would be. So I had a Harley. I live in North Dakota. It's cold here. I don't know if you guys know that, but it's cold here for like 22 months out of the year.
What's the temperature there now?
It was negative like 20 this morning.
Jeez.
So I had a Harley and I rode it for like 2 or 3 months out of the year, but
Right.
in that riding, it was like several hundred miles, and that was it, a year.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, well, I'll sell this, buy my coffee roaster, and then someday in the future, the coffee roaster will buy me a new Harley.
Mm-hmm.
So we did it. We ordered the roaster, and then time just kind of went on. We roasted all summer. We were doing farmers markets and going. We were doing like 20 to 30 bags of coffee a Saturday at a farmers market, which meant we had to roast 30 to 35 batches of coffee just to fill those orders. A typical roast takes between 10 and 12 minutes. Plus, you have between batch protocol time where like the roaster needs to either warm up or cool down so you can do your next batch. Like you can't just like pull the beans out and then throw them back in and keep going because your roast would be very inconsistent. Um, so we were spending a lot of time, and I was like really glad that I ordered that coffee roaster, but it wasn't here. We didn't get it till September or October of that year. In the meantime, there was a building in town. We live in a very small town in Cavalier, and I'd stared at this building many times, like, man, that would make a great coffee roastery. Told the wife. The wife was like, "You're crazy. Shut up." And then a for sale sign popped up on it, and we kind of, I sent her more pictures and was like, "Look, it's for sale." And she still told me I was crazy, but eventually we called the guy, and we were able to come up with a way to buy it in a deal, and we bought it, bit off way more than we could chew. We thought that we could like just move right in, like take our roaster and just set it up, but it was bad. The building had been abandoned for like over 10 years.
Mm.
And so it took us 2 more years to just put it together and move our
Wow.
roastery in there. Um, but yeah, so we just roasted, and as we were roasting and selling coffee, that was funding like the building renovations and then every other line of credit or um, avenue we could find to pay for it. And we finally opened it in June of 2022. And then, so now we were a coffee roastery and we were licensed. And the next step was to try to roast coffee for coffee shops. But that proved to be way harder than we ever thought it was going to be. So
Why is
that
that?
it's really hard to get people to change what they're doing.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. They already
Um,
had their own coffee
yeah,
supply.
yeah,
And yeah.
they already have their own coffee. They already have their own system built around that coffee or whatever, and they don't want to change. The
Hmm.
other thing too is pricing. So specialty coffee, um, everything works off commodity markets, like coffee prices. They just like gas,
Hmm.
eggs, everything. The commodity prices go up, the cost goes up.
Right.
Um, Specialty coffee is a high grade coffee, and so they typically cost more, and that not everybody wants to buy a specialty coffee. Some of them are just fine with premium coffee, which is cheaper. I don't quite understand premium coffee, so don't ask me questions on it.
Okay.
Like, I don't even know where you would buy premium coffee. Um, Maybe direct from a farmer. Or, I'm sure there's importers for it, but it's just not something I'd be interested in, so I don't know. But anyways, we um, we decided to open a coffee shop as well, and that way we could showcase our coffee.
Hmm.
So that January we opened the coffee shop of 2023, and then that actually was really nice because it alleviated pressure on needing to roast as many beans as we could to make money, and um, we had other avenues to pay the bills and stuff.
Hmm.
So then we did that up until April of last year. I started looking at coffee roasters and upgrading the size of the coffee roaster. Um, I was roasting a lot, and there just wasn't a lot of time to do anything else. It was like either I was roasting eh, or like just there just wasn't time. And so I told my buddy and my wife, I said, if I can find this specific roaster, I'll try to buy it. And the funny thing was, is we found one, or it's actually a little bigger than I think I wanted it, but I was like, that's fine, we'll roll with it anyways, because bigger's better. Like that would last us longer.
All right.
So we ended up buying a used 2018 Mill City 15 kilogram roaster this April off a sketchy website that I wasn't 100% sure it was real, but I talked to real people, so I kind of felt like it was real. And it was out of Colorado, and I searched all over the internet trying to find pictures of this coffee roaster on other coffee roaster like pages or whatever to see if it was legit. I never found it, but I felt confident in the business, so we decided to buy it, and it showed up in August, I think, and we ordered it in May. We paid for it in May. The coffee you had was roasted on the old coffee roaster.
Hmm.
So, um, meanwhile, like in this all this time I've been roasting coffee, I'm always like trying to perfect the craft. Like, what if I do this? What if I roast it a little darker? Or what if I use more heat? I went down a long spell of I was doing a roast effect called tipping. Have you ever heard of tipping on
No.
beans?
No.
So, coffee beans that are tipped, they burn right on. I wish I had a coffee bean, but I don't. Um, they burn right on the tip of the coffee, and it's actually where the seed would germinate. And what happens is you can taste that in your cup. Like you will taste the coffee, and it'll be a medium or a light roast, but it'll be burned. And
Hmm.
you're like, wow, why does that taste like smoky or burnt? And it's tipping. Well, I tipped a lot of coffee beans in my learning process. And Rob Hoos, he's a coffee roaster that puts out coffee education. He did a big book, like not a book, but like he called it a book, but it wasn't a big book. But he did a whole thing on tipping. And I went back down that rabbit hole trying to fix it. Like I knew it was there, but I couldn't fix it. And I just kept trying. And then eventually I was like, well, what if I just take out like half of the gas I'm using? Because you can manipulate the coffee roaster with gas, air, and drum speed. Drum speed is typically not adjusted. Everything else is adjusted like throughout the roast. You give it more gas, it gets hotter. You give it more air, it pulls that hot air through, but also kind of cools it in this weird way. Um, so I started playing with that, trying to fix that. And I'm gonna squirrel all over on you guys. I'm sorry.
It's all right.
But we're always trying to fix things. So I went down this rabbit hole, fixed the tipping by decreasing the amount of gas and heat I use throughout the roast. But it was there was always just a little bit, but it was kind of all gone. But during that process, I learned as a coffee roaster, like if I could tell somebody learning coffee, I would say start with one profile and only work on that one profile. And the only thing you change is the finish tip. Yeah, squirrels, Jacob. The only thing you change is the finish tip.
So when you say
Because
profile, you mean like roast, like light roast?
no, when I
No.
say profile, so in coffee roasting, a profile is like the graph. It's yes, light roast is part of it, but there's more to it. There's like
Okay.
your three phases and the time you spend in each phase.
Okay.
Um, and when I say profile, I mean like machine settings.
Okay.
Um, so I during that time I started roasting everything with the same machine settings all the way till the finish. Now the finish being light, medium, dark. I don't like light, medium, dark because there are three boxes in a huge area of like
It's more complex. That's
yes,
yeah.
it's more complex. Um, so I just squirreled on the chat. I'm not used to that. So that's what I started doing in that time, and then I could really like refine my machine control and kind of whole roast process. And all that work there helped us with the new roaster, like be able to hit the ground running. Because something that was really intimidating was there's no like recommended settings for these roasters. Like, oh, if you start with this, and this, you'll be good to go, at least get something done.
Mm-hmm.
No, there's nothing because it depends on your environmental conditions. It depends on how much gas pressure the gas company gives you, um, how the electricity flows and powers your air and drum. So all that learning helped me with the new roaster, and we were able to hit the ground running. And plus, I did the same thing. I started with the same profile. Like I didn't change nothing between each coffee that we roasted, other than how I finished it, whether it be light, medium, or dark. Um, all the coffee you had was on the old roaster, and I was blown away by just changing roasters. Our coffee got better. And what I think it is, all of the tipping was gone, and it was mostly taken care of anyways on the 3K. But um, I think because it was a bigger drum space, because we went to a 15 kilogram coffee roaster, and but we were only doing 10 kilogram batches because I was afraid of over roasting coffee and not being able to sell it in time,
Mm-hmm.
or screwing up an extra 5 kilograms of coffee, um, since I didn't have any settings to go off of. But we got lucky and hit the ground like running right off the bat. So all the coffee started coming out better, and I think it's because there's more drum space, like so the beans can just kind of move more freely and stuff. I don't know, but the coffee got better, um, and it's I this last month I've gone down a rabbit hole of pour over brewing. Have you ever heard of Lance Hedrick?
Yes. Yes.
So I like I so I'm like a sponge when it comes to knowledge he puts out.
Okay.
And something that I always struggled with in my V60 pour overs was I couldn't get the brews to taste good. Like I didn't like them; they were usually too strong. Well, I found out that I was grinding way too fine on
Mm.
my pour over settings, and um, I coarsened that up. I have SSP multi-purpose burrs in the coffee grinder we use at the shop, and I like to drink other roasters' coffee to train myself as well as like compare myself to make sure I'm doing a good job. And I got an advent calendar from Onyx this year, from Onyx Coffee Labs.
Yeah.
So during the
Onyx.
month of December, I got to drink a ton of really nice different coffees. And while I was drinking that, I was able to kind of figure out a pour over recipe. And I made a huge swing in my coffee grinder. Like we started over here on the fine side and we ended over here on the coarse side, like really coarse brews. But that would allow me to brew at that higher ratio of like 1 to 17
Hmm.
versus what I had to do was like 1 to 20 to kind of enjoy things.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I'm on
yeah,
the opposite end, 1 to 15.
yeah, grind a little finer then. But no, if I like coffee stronger like that too, but I have to be careful because I will get into I can handle it and I can drink it and I can enjoy it, but if I make it for other people, then they get very turned off by it because it's too strong for them.
Hmm.
And that was another thing that I would run into. I'd try to brew these coffees on these recipes that are proven from coffee professionals and they'd be like too strong or too bitter. And you can make good coffee bitter by just brewing it too strong or incorrectly. Um, so yeah, that's something that I have to be careful of because I do it all the time. I end up making it too strong, and then I see people taste it and they're like, "Ooh, you can stick a fork in that thing." So
So with different roasts, so I understand there's like 20 different factors in each roast. Like, it's not only time, it's how much gas, how much spin time or whatever. But is it like in simplest terms, is it quicker to make a light roast than a medium roast?
well, yeah, because
Dark
a
roast.
medium roast or a dark roast. So I roast everything the same all the way until the last phase, or very, very close to the same. The only thing that changes if I'm going to roast a coffee dark is it spends more time in the coffee drum. Now, the other thing that will change is right before the last phase, I won't take out as much gas pressure or fire heat, so it will push that coffee darker. Um, you could spend you could if you use too much heat during the coffee roast, like on a dark roast, you're gonna get oily beans because if you push it too fast, it overheats the beans, and then they might come out looking fine, but give them 2 or 3 days, and the oils will start to seep out of the ends. I'm sure you've seen oily coffee beans and stuff before. Those are either roasted too dark, or sometimes they're pushed too hard and hot, and then those oils show up like several days later.
Mm. I
Um,
thought that was like a good sign, like to see kind of
it
like a
depends.
general oily.
Well, see, that's the thing. Everybody has their own flavor profiles and
Right.
cups that
Right.
they like. Some people really like oily coffee beans, whereas some people really like nuanced coffee that's more soft and mellow or like has fruit notes and stuff. Like I'm a big like fruit note coffee. I don't
Mhm.
like over fruity fermented like co-ferment coffees very much. I like a subtle like, oh, is that a hint of strawberry that I'm tasting there? Like that's the kind of coffee I like, more subtle,
Mhm.
fruity, and clean. I'm a big light roast guy. I'm only becoming more of a light roast guy the more I dive down this light roast rabbit hole.
Mhm.
Um, we do a winter blend. It's a dark roast. I just said do. Um, we do a winter blend. It's a dark roast, but I try to keep it on the light side of dark. I don't want the oils because oils can clog up grinders. They go rancid faster, like just like any oil. It's
Hmm.
when it's sitting in there, it it tends to stink or stale out. So I try to keep all oil off of my coffee beans.
Hmm. Okay. Is there such a thing as where roasters will add flavor to coffee beans, or is
Yeah,
it
but
all
not me.
right? Okay.
Yeah, roasted. There's plenty. I mean, there's flavored coffee out there.
Right.
That's
So
just a silly question.
it's not silly for everyone though, because some people don't know that
This
like a
this is
roast
true.
will develop a flavor, like depending on their origin, right? Like the bean's origin and how it's grown and how it's washed, right? Like that's factors into flavoring, doesn't it?
Yeah. So, I mean, there's two different ways that they flavor coffee. One, they flavor it with oil and like artificial flavoring, and typically that's your lower grade coffee that they're
Mm,
hiding the defects and the flavoring. And there's a market for that. There's tons of money in that. Um, some roasters do that. Everybody can roast coffee their own way. And then there's another way, a more like on the specialty coffee roasting side of things, where they're doing like co-fermented coffee. So they take the coffee as it's still a cherry, and they'll put it in like the big 55-gallon liquid drums,
yeah,
and they'll purge all the oxygen, and they'll throw in like fruits and stuff and soak it for several days. I believe it's called like an anaerobic process, and the coffees will soak up those fruit notes as well, and those tend to be like very, very fruity coffees. Some of them actually like taste, I guess, like very like pineapples and like crazy fruit notes.
mm-hmm.
It's not for me. And then those coffees are typically more difficult for me to roast when I've roasted them in the past. It changes the beans. It's
Right.
I don't know too much about it, but it's different. Most of my customers don't like them,
Hmm.
so we kind of went away from them. We tried them here and there.
Yeah, I've tried some like bourbon barrel beans
Yeah,
before, which I didn't like at all.
I've
And I
had
love
that
bourbon, but
a long, long time ago, and I didn't like it either. But I also I don't I don't want my coffee to taste like bourbon.
hmm.
So I would agree. I don't. I believe they just store it in barrels. I don't know if they put liquid in there or not to like make everything touch. I don't know how
Hmm.
they do it. It's not something that I would ever do or really be interested in doing. So I couldn't answer your question there.
Yeah, I think they put it in used barrels.
I think they put it in used barrels too, but I
Yeah.
don't know if they like add water when it's green
Oh, yeah, maybe.
or
Yeah.
because you kind of need surface area to touch things and then dry it back out. I don't know if it's just sitting in that barrel and the air itself does it
Hmm.
or what.
Yeah. And the only other, I mean, I've tried flavored coffees, like artificially flavored coffees before, which I don't like any of them. The most popular one would probably be like a peppermint flavored coffee, which
Yeah.
doesn't taste good to me at all. As much as I love peppermint and I love coffee, but when it's artificially placed in there,
Yeah,
it's
it
rancid.
just
It's like it's to me.
yeah.
Um,
My my theory is flavor your drinks, not your
right.
coffee beans.
Exactly.
And then
Exactly.
in our coffee shop, like we make flavored lattes and stuff and they're absolutely delicious. We try to make our own syrups for it, and we have a peppermint that Valerie makes out of candy canes, and
Hmm.
it's really good. But yeah, flavor your coffees, not your coffee beans, and then buy good coffee too. Like if you don't like a coffee from a place, maybe find a better roaster or try your local roaster instead of the bag off the grocery store. I don't know,
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
but
Absolutely. Frick and Frack have a question. Best way to store beans until you're ready to grind and brew.
I recommend storing them in the bags they came in. Um, That's what we put them in there for. You can freeze them. I don't I don't know how long you're gonna use it. I don't know where your coffee's coming from, but if you're getting it fresh from a roaster with a roast date, you have a long time with that coffee to be good. Not a long time, not like years, but
Like a
um,
year?
I put a year. We put a year on our bags.
Mm-hmm.
Um, actually, something like there's a big stigma of like, oh, I have to have coffee that was roasted yesterday. That stuff typically doesn't taste very good.
Right. You got to let
I
it.
like, yeah, you got to let it rest. I
Yeah.
like to let coffee rest 2 weeks before I even touch it.
That's what I've
Um,
heard. Yeah.
you can freeze it, but when you freeze it, when you bring it out of the freezer, you want to let it come completely to temperature and thaw for like a day before you open the bag. Otherwise, you get that refrigerator effect and you open the bag and it will draw all the moisture in the air into the bag. Like if you go outside and it's -20 and you open your door and that cloud of moisture comes in, it's the same deal.
All right. Chat, feel free to enter some questions in the chat. Um, pick the brain of a roaster. So, do you stick with kind of like a few countries of origin for your beans, or are you have a wide variety?
So I'm actually narrowing. Um, I store mine room temp. If you refrigerate it, once again, uh, when you open the bag, you're gonna draw that moisture in. Just store it room temp. Keep it out of the sun. Put it in a cabinet. That's what I recommend. The best thing to do. Sorry to interrupt you. The bean origin. So when I started as a roaster, I needed to have a coffee bean origin from every country. Like I was like, oh, I gotta get a Papua New Guinea and a Brazil and a Costa Rica and a Guatemala, and that was great. It was a great learning experience, but it makes it really hard on me as a roaster to when I buy coffee, I have to buy enough for it to last. And the more origins I buy, I either have to buy more of those or I run out of stuff. And then sometimes when you run out of stuff, people just will be like, "Oh, well, I don't want to try something new.
All right.
I'll just go get something else or something." So what we've been doing is my goal as a roaster now is to narrow my bean origin. We're down to 4 right now. We have 2 Ethiopias, a Costa Rica natural, and a Peru right now that we use in our dark roast. And my goal is to buy more farm specific coffee moving forward. Um, I want to I want to buy more farm specific as well as like I want to up the green quality and the cost to me anyways. I don't really want to make coffee more expensive to other people, but I want to buy the best and roast the best. Some of these nuanced coffees are just it's crazy when you taste a coffee and you're like, oh, that tastes like an Earl Grey tea, and then there's hints of honey and chocolate, and like it's mind blowing when you have coffees that are so vivid like that and complex
Mm-hmm.
versus just like burnt or
Right.
like heavy chocolate, like because like our below zero is like a heavy chocolate coffee. It's a natural Costa Rican and coffee beans share kind of the same qualities of chocolate and like the bitterness and the taste and stuff. That's why the darker you roast the coffee, the more bitter it tastes.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, our goal is to head to the fridge to remove beans. Um, to keep roasting higher quality greens and to narrow that band so I can buy more of those beans and have more time to work with it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we used to just kind of buy coffee as we needed it, and what we would run into is we couldn't get either the same coffee as we were getting, which coffee is a commodity. Like once it's gone, you got to wait till it grows again, or the prices would go crazy, and I just want to buy like a year's supply of coffee and just work with it for a year. Like, give me a whole year to work with a coffee, and maybe I can do something really, really awesome with it. As
Hmm.
well as buying, like I said, more farm specific coffees and higher quality coffees.
Hmm. Have
And
you ever
then
been to a farm, a coffee farm?
I haven't.
No.
No, I want to. It's hard with kids to leave the country
Right.
and actually enjoy
Yeah.
things. Someday we will. Someday
Yeah.
we'll go visit all the coffee farms. I really want to. I really want to taste a coffee cherry. Did you? Most of you may or may not know, but coffee grows as a cherry.
Hmm.
Um, not a bean, not a bean pod. It grows as cherry. It's the seed inside of the cherry, and yeah.
All right.
Have you? Do you like washed or natural coffees? I can't remember. I think you like washed.
I really haven't looked into that. Like I haven't compared how it's processed.
You should, because it's such a huge difference. So washed coffees, they take the coffee cherry and they use like water, high pressure water, and they clean all the cherry meat and mucilage and everything off, and then dry the beans. Whereas like a natural coffee, they take the entire cherry and lay it out on coffee beds
Hmm.
for up to a month, at least
Hmm.
several weeks, and they let it dry, let that cherry dry, and kind of ferment into the coffee bean.
Hmm.
Um, and those typically end up being fruity coffees, but also depending on how they're roasted, they can be like deep chocolate coffees and give you tons of chocolate notes. And um, yeah, they're pretty cool. The process of the coffee makes a big difference. And then they have honey processed coffees where they remove the skin, which the pulp of the coffee cherry, the skin, and they leave all the meat and mucilage is what they call it, and it looks like the coffee beans are covered in honey. That's why they
Hmm.
call it a honey process. But
Okay.
um, yeah, the process is pretty big, and it
So do
can.
you stick to just one process for yours?
No, we
No.
do. So for our fire hall espresso, we have changed it up to a single origin, single farmer project washed Ethiopian.
Hmm.
Um, and then we have a natural Ethiopian that we sell. We're kind of low on it, so I pulled it off the website for a little bit so I could have one more month with the subscription people. I didn't want to sell it
Hmm.
too soon. And then we have a natural Costa Rica, and then a washed Peru. So we kind of got both, two of
Okay.
each. I like natural coffees, but lately I've been going down this washed Ethiopian rabbit hole of like
Hmm.
ultralight washed Ethiopians that have florals or I don't know. It's so hard to describe it. I sound crazy when you talk about it when you're like, "Oh man, this coffee tastes like a mellow hints of strawberry or chocolate," and I don't know. I'm not very
Yeah.
good at the describing the notes. It's tough to associate those things. But I'm drinking the washed Ethiopian, the Fire Hall espresso today. Ah, it's been delicious.
I'm drinking Vigilant Hope Roasting, which is out of Wilmington, North Carolina.
Nice. It's a
Um,
Sumatra.
yep, Sumatra,
Oh, hold on,
uh,
let me go full screen. Hold
chocolate
that up again.
cherry, licorice, nutmeg.
Can I see it again?
Process is wet hold.
Wet hold. Yep. So that is kind of like a honey process. I'm good.
Yep.
It's kind of like a honey process, but a little different. Each countries have kind of their own processes too. It's probably a medium to dark roast. Typically, Sumatras are like medium or dark.
Yeah, it's a dark roast.
During my roasting class, we roasted a Sumatra, and they had us roast it light, medium, or dark to show us how, while most roasters make it dark, it works in other ways too.
There's their roaster that they use.
Nice. Is it a Probat?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah, I was interested because I was like, it was right there, and I was like, hey, do you mind if I take a picture of your roaster? And then they're like showing me their beans and
Yeah, man. I just recently, when I was in Minneapolis for Coffee Fest,
yeah,
we got to go to Dogwood Coffee, and they showed us around their roastery, and that was really awesome. It was
yeah,
really it was for a small town roaster like us. It was really cool for them to be such a huge coffee roaster and just welcome us in and kind of show us around and
yeah,
talk to us about those things.
yeah. We were in Minneapolis at the same time. I was like, hey,
Yeah,
can you sneak me into your show?
I could have.
Yeah, I just didn't feel right about it because I'm not a roaster. I'm not a business owner. Like that's what it was for. It's not like for the, the consumer.
Your coffee media.
Yeah, yeah.
You belong there.
True.
You probably could have got in just because you're coffee media.
Yeah.
Just because you're not a roaster, you're a brewer.
Just
You
put
talk about coffee.
a badge that says press.
Yeah. No. They had, I mean, it was really cool. It wasn't just for that. They had the latte art championship going on there. It was a cool thing. There's a ton of coffee education going on.
Can you explain what roasting scores are and what they mean? And will you ever have a roasting score?
I think you're talking about cupping scores.
Okay. So like I know like Onyx is like pretty high in this score, like this whatever score it is.
So those are green cupping scores. Those scores come from, they're grading the green that they're roasting. And it's not them grading it, it's the producer of the coffee that gets it graded by SCA certified cuppers.
I see, that's what it was. I couldn't think of that. Yeah.
And so every coffee we have has a cupping score from Cafe Imports, but it's not something I've asked them for ever, but something that, like I said, I want to get into selling better quality, but I also want to do like Onyx is doing and show the green cost and show the production cost on our website. If you go to Onyx's website and their traceability or sustainability, I'm not sure exactly what they call it, but they have those scores. And then they also have a score on, like, they score themselves on how they acquired the coffee. Now, Onyx is $1 million company, and they have tons of buying powder. Where we're buying like 6 bags of coffee at a time, and it's like, especially the coffee market right now is the highest it's ever been, which is why I want to move away from those coffees that float on that coffee market price and just get locked in to the higher quality lots and stuff. But yeah, so like the scores are there, but it's not based on how they roasted the coffee. It's based on the green and how it was grown and how it's scored in a sample roasting procedure.
Okay.
So if it's the cupping score you're talking about, let me and the other score that they give themselves, which is, like I said, on how they acquired it, like the A, B, I believe they have like A, B, C, D. That is based on just how they acquired it.
Yeah, you're right. It's the cupping.
Yep.
I used to have a list, like it would list all of the like scores above 80, I think.
So here's the thing. In order to be specialty coffee, they have to be scored above 80.
Okay.
They have to score above 80. Below that, I guess, is premium coffee. everything I buy and everything I produce is specialty coffee
Okay.
because that's all I'm interested in.
Mm-hmm.
How many viewers do we have? I'm just curious.
We've been up to 13.
That's awesome. We appreciate you guys.
At my job, there's been a bunch of different coffee cases, different brand styles. I can't believe that others can't smell them like I can. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
What how what so how do you guys brew your coffee? Anybody like pour overs, or you guys espresso, or you normally do a Chemex, right?
Yes. Yes. Well, actually, normally I use a drip machine, a Boone
Okay,
or Bun
a bun.
coffee maker. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I do, like, when I'm tasting a coffee or doing like a review on it, I do a Chemex pour over.
I loved your review that you did of ours. I loved how thorough it was. You caught things on my website that I didn't realize were
That's right.
certain ways, and yeah, like I do all my website. I do all that stuff, so
Yeah.
sometimes things get overlooked.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's called burnt, Ellie.
Yeah, but so a couple of people that have watched my show, they've kind of bought Chemexes because I always show like how it's done, and they
Yep.
really enjoy it. I have a AeroPress, I have a French press. The AeroPress is pretty cool. French press, I usually take that camping. That's like my camping brewer.
Nice, nice. Our newsletter. Thank you very much. I try not to spam emails. I am also the person that sends the emails, and I always feel guilty sending them. So I try not to spam emails. I just send the email every now and then if we have something new
Mm-hmm.
going on.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we were doing a discount thing for a while on there, but we had to get rid of it because all our costs are growing, and we work hard for what we're doing, and everything is expensive. So the best discount we can give is buying in bulk. Buy 3-pound bags or bigger, and that's where it gets
Right.
discounted because we buy less labels, we buy less bags for that. But yeah, I like a V60. I was recently using a Next Level Pulsar brewer, and that was really nice too. It's kind of like an AeroPress French press combination. Um, but then after listening to Lance talk about a V60 and comparing the two and how he thought the V60 was still better, I had to go figure it out and keep working on my recipe. And I came up with a really good recipe that I use at our coffee shop.
So what's the difference between the V60 and like a Chemex?
So I've never used a Chemex, but from what I understand, the V60 has those little raised bars all the way around it on the inside. I could get
Sure.
one.
Let me.
And yeah, so the V60 has those little raised bars which allow a little bit of air to flow through there in your brewing and keeps it from clogging easier.
Okay.
Whereas I believe a Chemex only has one kind of air passage, and um, a Chemex you can brew bigger batches. From what I understand, I've only used a V60 in a Kalita Wave, and the Kalita Wave was very early in my coffee brewing career. Amazon has a killer deal where you can buy a V60. It comes with filters and a craft like to brew into. They're usually
Okay.
like $21 or $22.
Oh wow. Okay.
Plastic drippers are better when it comes to how they brew,
Huh.
but everybody has their own feelings on plastics and glass and ceramic.
Right.
They say the plastic ones warm up faster so they rob less heat from the brew.
Oh, okay.
And that's just all regurgitated information that I read or acquired from the internet or Facebook.
Hmm.
I haven't like practiced other brewers to see if they taste it differently.
One thing
But
that I'm kind of interested in is this new machine it's a pour over, but it has like a water reservoir and it kind of percolates like a regular coffee maker,
is that
but
the
it's like a timed
fellow?
release. I'm not sure what the name of it is. Let me look. Will you say fellow?
Fellow Aiden, maybe?
Let's take a look here. Hmm. Actually, let me look at my Instagram because I entered to try to win one recently. Let's see.
Yes, Amber. You should try like all the coffees. It's a deep, dark rabbit hole though. Just once you go down, you're you can't come back.
It's
I've been
very like I haven't even touched the surface yet. I don't think.
I
Like
haven't touched
so
it. I'm
much.
5 years into doing this and I am still learning every single day.
All right, that makes me feel better.
Every single day I am still learning. There's no like, oh, I roasted coffee for a year, so now I'm a master. And if somebody tells you that, eh, I don't know. Because I am learning every single day. And it's always trial by fire with coffee roasting, like, because there's no instructions and there's no like set way to do it. So you literally have to do it. And then you have to take a couple weeks to drink it, taste it. Um,
All right, so it's called Simply Good Coffee Brewer.
oh, that is a um that looks like a knockoff of a Mocha Master.
Okay.
That's what that looks like. It literally looks like a Mocha Master.
Huh.
I've
All
seen
right.
that ad too.
And it kind of, it works like kind of like a pour over where you like it just releases a little bit of water to let it what's the
Yeah.
word? Uh, I can't think.
Well, to bloom it.
Bloom it, yeah, bloom function.
Yeah.
Bloom function,
Bloom
just like
function.
pour over
Yeah.
brewery. Um, yeah, I don't know.
I don't know either. I don't know anything about it. I have a Mocha Master that we use, and what we do to bloom it is we just turn it on and off. We just control the switch manually. Yeah, we have one like that right there.
Okay,
We
yeah,
bought
it
ours
looks like
on.
it, yeah.
They have sales. I don't know that other one. It's weird that it looks just like that one.
Yeah, yeah. Huh. Oops. It's not
But
showing right
yeah,
away.
we use a Mocha Master. I have been wanting to. Have you ever seen those espresso machines? They're the Gajah Classic Pros, where they kind of cut them apart and they put like a computer chip in to control the brewing and everything.
No.
Uh, they are really awesome.
Look at all the colors you can get.
Yeah, Mocha Master's a great coffee maker. If you're ever looking for a coffee maker, you can go to the SCA website and they certify like coffee makers for home use
Oh.
that get up to proper temperature. Like the coffee companies have to pay for that, like the brewers. But that's always a good way to find a coffee maker.
Hmm.
So those are cupping scores, but they have another one for like I said, for coffee brewers. Can I private chat with you? Is that what this private chat is?
It is. It is. Yeah.
All right. Let me.
Yep. Yeah. You're a wealth of knowledge.
Who? Me?
You. Yeah.
No.
Yeah. All right. Let me catch up in chat here.
What kind of espresso machine do you use? I know you pull espresso shots.
Breville.
A Brevo.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those are actually really great. I got to play with a Breville, and then we also have a Gaza Classic Pro that I like to play that I played with, and I like the Breville better. I just can't find it.
Yeah. The private chat's just between you and me, if that's what you're looking
Yeah,
for.
I was gonna drop a link, but I can't find a link to that
Oh,
other
okay.
thing. But what I was getting at is they made these mods to modify these espresso machines to control like how much pump pressure you give out or the temperature of the water to hack them and make them better. And I want to try to do that with a coffee pot
Yeah.
to program in like a bloom time or for it to pour every 30 seconds after a bloom time. So that was a rabbit hole that I was going down the other night on what do I need to buy to hack this Amazon coffee maker that I bought to experiment with. What is a good coffee maker for home use? What's up, Billy? Well, the best would be a Mocha Master. Buns are probably your most common ones to get. Some of the Ninja coffee makers are SCA certified. Isn't there a Breville coffee maker?
I'm not sure. I mean, the bun, I love it because it's 4 minutes. I have a whole pot of coffee. It keeps the water hot. And
Yeah, I mean Bun's also like a trusted name and used in coffee shops all around.
right.
I would say Bun would be my second choice over a Mocha Master.
Yeah, that Mocha Master. Maybe I'll look into that. It looks like a really nice.
They are really nice.
Someone else had a question here. Let me find it.
One thing that's important while you're looking for that is to make sure the coffee maker gets hot enough.
Right.
And that's where the SCA certified things come in.
All right.
What is the difference between a paper filter and metal filter? Is it just preference? No, there's more of a difference. A paper filter is going to absorb the coffee oils that are produced by coffee when you're brewing, and a metal filter will let the oils through. Typically, people run into the metal filter also lets the fines through, and they end up with a little sludge in the bottom of their coffee cups or coffee makers. I prefer paper. Not that the oils aren't good because they are coffee flavor. I just like the cleanliness of the cup, the taste, and sometimes those metal ones can get like stinky and gross if you don't clean them very often. I mean, we've all looked at coffee makers that it's like, whoa,
Yeah.
at our places of work here and there. So,
Right.
or hotel rooms. So yeah, it's a taste preference for sure. Some people prefer metal over paper. Um, yeah,
Do you wet the filter first? Kind of like run water through it first before
I
you put
do
the coffee
both.
grounds?
I do both.
Yeah.
Uh, if I'm really trying to like taste the coffee or work on something, I will stick to that method.
Yeah.
If I'm being lazy and making a coffee for myself, sometimes I won't, but I try. I try to do the same thing every time. Try.
And do you wet the coffee beans before you grind them?
I don't. I am um, using very high quality coffee grinders, so it's not as important, but it is a really good thing to do, like to spritz them. I think they call that
Yeah.
RDT. It's supposed to help mitigate with fines and stuff, but no, I typically don't.
And then I also had a question from Robert and Terry. They sent me this last night, and they're looking at burr grinders, which I use a conical burr, but they wanted to know what the difference between the conical and the flat burr. I've never used a flat burr before. I just said that like the conical lasts longer from what I've read than the flat.
They do taste different.
Do they?
I Yeah, they do produce different grinds and different taste. I can't tell you exactly I've never used a conical other than when I was using a hand grinder.
Okay.
I really like the Fellow Ode Gen 2 um burr grinder. Oh, I did use a conical when I used their Opus. And that one's technically an espresso everything grinder. But I like the Fellow Odes. I have a Gen 1. Um I'm eventually going to buy I don't a Time More, but that's because it's it's a really expensive grinder and I wouldn't recommend it to everybody. But that one I would, especially when it goes on sale. They're great grinders. The Gen 2 burrs are awesome. The SSP burrs are better, but they are not for everybody. And it also becomes a very expensive grinder if you upgrade the burrs.
Mm-hmm.
But those are great little grinders. I had the Gen 1. It's been great. One thing I will say is plug them directly into a power source because uh, we had them go bad plugged into like a power strip. Like
Oh,
it ruined the motor. It was, I don't know why, but you would think it would be the absolute other way. You would think a surge protector would protect it, but Fellow was great to work with. They warranted it really easy.
so is this a flat burr?
That's a flat burr, yeah.
Huh.
Um, so flat burrs are sometimes like this, sometimes like that, and they're literally two flat burrs. If you look at the Opus, that is a conical. I can't tell you all
Oh,
the
there it is.
differences because I don't know, and I'm not
There's the
gonna
flat
make it
burr. I was
up.
looking for the.
But there's a debate on which one's better. I like
Yeah.
flats. Commercial coffee shops are all using flats. We're using
Really?
flats
Huh.
in our espresso grinders. Um,
Have you replaced them?
have I
The
replaced the burrs? I
Yeah,
have replaced the burrs and one of our grinders. We completely wore them out.
yeah.
But I mean, that was not like home brewing. I don't think you'll if you buy like
True,
good
true.
quality burrs, they're probably gonna last you forever at home.
Yeah, that's true.
And they're not that hard to replace the burrs.
Hmm.
Actually, there's like a whole nother burr rabbit hole. Does grinding the bean change the flavor notes? Absolutely. It changes everything. So you um, think of think of the coffee as a filter. And the finer you grind that coffee, the slower the water can move through that filter and the more particles that are going to touch the water. So the more particles that touch the water, the more it's absorbed or brewed. And if it's too fine, it'll get really bitter. Like I'm sure we all had a blade grinder. I had a blade grinder back in the day,
Oh yeah,
and we
that's
ground
everyone's
that
first grinder.
as fine as we could, like powder,
Right.
espresso fine, and that was apparently not a good way to grind your beans. I didn't know that. Um, if you grind it too coarse, then the coffee will flow through really easy, and it will extract less. So that's why, like, Billy, you've maybe heard us talk about dialing in our espresso machine or dialing in a coffee or something. And that's literally that. We're trying to dial in the the line between too coarse and too fine. Um, it would be like if you had a salt and a barbecue rub and you used fine ground salt, you would have a ton more particles, so it would spread out more versus like a coarse ground, like uh, force. That was so loud. Um, yeah, so it matters. There's the better the quality, the grinder, the the bigger that area is that you can work with.
Hmm.
I mean, I'm sure you've done it with a pour over, right? Or have you just kind of stuck to one grind setting and then just rode with that forever?
No, I've tried different. Yeah, I've definitely tried
Well, I mean, is that
different
kind of right
size.
there? Is that what we're looking at? Like
Is this
con
what?
consistent particle size. Um, it's on the middle of the screen of the ode that we're looking at.
Mhm.
And that's what you kind of want in a grinder. You want it to
Right.
produce consistent particle size. Um,
Hmm. Yeah, there's so much you can read into this. There's so much information.
there's so many different burrs too now, and
Yeah.
they produce different qualities and taste. But that is the best like grinder to jump into.
So
Those
just
are
the
the
burrs is $80.
yeah. So I have a Gen 1 grinder, and if it was the route I wanted to go, I would upgrade to those and keep using the Gen 1 just because the Gen 2 burrs are better. They I believe Lance had a helping hand in picking those burrs. At least that's what he said on his YouTube video.
Huh.
Um,
Yeah,
and
he's got good video. He's got great videos. I like
yeah,
watching.
I, so that's what I would get for like if I wanted to grind my own coffee beans. And then grinding your own coffee beans is obviously going to be the best you can do. But if you can't grind them with a good quality grinder, like if you're using a burr grinder or something, it's best to get them ground from a roaster because they're using a high quality burr grinder.
True.
And if you grind the beans incorrectly, they're not going to taste as good as if they were ground correctly. And then there's the question of freshness. Well, when they're ground fresh and roasted fresh, you know it's fresh versus like grocery store or other place that you might buy it where it might be ground and sit there for a long time. Or like like that bag of coffee right there. I bet that one sat on the shelf for a while.
So yeah, this is the grinder that I use.
Yep.
The Cuisinart conical burr mill, which I've had it for just over a year.
I think I had one of those and we killed it when we first
Yeah.
started being a coffee roastery because like people were like, "Oh, I need ground," so we were grinding on that
Oh
and
wow.
we killed it. It was
Yeah.
a great grinder though until I killed it.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see it going bad pretty fast if you're doing it as a business.
Yeah, trying to grind a pound of coffee at a time was probably not the best idea.
Yeah. It's very sensitive. Like it is kind of pain, especially man, I can imagine filling bags grinding this because
Yeah.
it's so sensitive, like to get that container in there to collect the grind.
Yeah.
To get it just right so you'll collect it.
Yeah. And this was like the first month of coffee life
Yeah.
for us too
Yeah.
when we used that. And then we bought a commercial grinder, a Malcognic.
Yeah.
Another thing that my wife told me I was crazy on.
All right. Well, we've already been here for over an hour. I don't want to keep you all day with this. I know you're a busy guy. And is there any last minute questions in the chat for a roaster, AJ the roaster of Sparkies? Let me put your website back in the chat. If anyone wants to check out your website.
Yeah. I will say my favorite coffee right now that I'm brewing is the Fire Hall Espresso.
Yeah.
It's that single farmer washed Ethiopia. It's different than what you had. I changed everything about it. Sorry.
Well,
But
I liked it when I had it.
that was also part of the issue with buying a few bags of coffee each time we order coffee, whereas now we're trying to buy a year supply so we can keep it consistent. And I found a coffee that is just great on espresso as well as brewing. Um, no, guys, like if you see Fire Hall Espresso, that doesn't mean that you can only brew it on an espresso machine.
Right.
Or if you any other coffee, that's one big thing that we run into is people are like, "Oh, can I have espresso beans?" There's no such thing as espresso beans. There is such thing as coffee roasts that are like roasted for espresso machines, but they can be brewed anyway. They're not special beans. Espresso is a brew method, and those are just what we use on our espresso machine in our coffee shop. But I will drink this coffee on drip, on pour over. Absolutely love it on pour over. So,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, my favorite coffee right now is our Fire Hall Espresso, and I love coffee. This year we're going to buy. I'm trying to buy like small, like 25 or 50 pound lots bags of coffee. To they're called crown jewels, or from some places they're called crown jewels. Other places that's just how they sell them. But I just want to experience like different coffees, but not in a huge manner where I have to buy a ton of coffee. I can just buy 50 pounds, do that coffee for a month, and then move on and get to try new coffee the next month and not be committed to 150 pounds of something that I now have to sell.
Right.
So thank you, everybody,
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
watching me ramble and look at squirrels and yeah.
Yeah, we could probably, there's so much information about roasting itself. I mean, just like you said, it's so complex with each roast. There's like 20 different factors in each roast that you
Yeah, there's just so
uh,
much to it. I mean, there's 5 years
spend.
of me roasting coffee and I'm still learning, and
Right.
I couldn't talk about everything I learned, but this is fun. I love to chat with you.
Yeah.
This
Awesome.
is fun. I like chatting with people, and yeah, I love talking about it. I love coffee.
Very cool. And everyone here loves coffee. Well, except for Jason Klein. He doesn't like coffee. And Dagan. Those two guys, they just came in to support us, but they're not coffee drinkers.
Oh, they're really not coffee drinkers.
Yeah, they're literally not coffee. But
That's all right.
I think Jason won coffee from you guys, which he got for his wife from our auction. And thanks,
Yeah,
thanks for donating to our auction. Really
yeah,
appreciate.
yeah. No,
I
it was
think we
for a good
raised like
cause.
$2,300 for zero prostate cancer. Yeah, very cool, Amber. Like loved it. Like you said, there's so many avenues you can go down. Squirrel, yeah.
Yeah. So
Kev got to Kevin hadn't drank coffee in 20 years, but he started drinking coffee because of this show.
that's awesome. Yeah, I mean, coffee doesn't have to be bad or bitter or scary, and it can be enjoyed in many different ways.
Yep.
So,
All right, AJ, chat. Thanks for stopping in. Thanks again for coming on the show, AJ,
yeah,
sharing
man,
your knowledge.
anytime. That was fun. We can
And
do this again in the future if you ever want
yeah,
to.
definitely, definitely. And by then, you'll have a different technique of how you're roasting.
I will probably be changing things all the time because if
Yeah,
you're not changing it, you're not learning. But
exactly, exactly. Yeah.
so
All right, everyone. Have a good day.
See ya.
And cheers. I'll